President Trump is putting policies in place to force these nations to pay their fair share, which will in turn lower prices for Americans. It's a good deal. But we have to remember this is just the beginning. The most important battle we all face is disease itself. We have to recognize how hard this fight is. For most major diseases that you or your loved one might suffer from, like Alzheimer's disease, to cancers, to genetic diseases, we are very far away from a cure. And we have to understand that discovering cures is perhaps the hardest scientific challenge humans undertake. Much harder than getting to the moon, not that we don't like that, but much harder than even getting to Mars or making the next generation of cell phones or electric cars. Hard like staring into the unknown for years, sometimes decades, with no guarantee that anything you're doing will ever make a difference for somebody like Travis. Regeneron is a great example of both the difficulty of the challenge, but also of the potential reward. We spent 25 years and billions of dollars, not millions, billions of dollars, before we produced our first important medicine, or even earned our first profit. Maybe we should have been or might have been fired, but we stuck with it. Our relentless commitment to disruptive innovation ultimately turned us into one of the most productive biotechnology companies in history. We have produced, thanks to George and his team, new medicines at the rate of about one important medicine a year for the last 15 years, including truly miraculous advances impacting millions of lives. And we have two people here who are living proof. Mr. President, when you were ill with COVID, it was Regeneron's monoclonal cocktail that you affectionately dubbed the Regeneron. We love it. And that helped save your life. That was invented by George right here and his team. George?
Well, in addition to the president, we had a few minutes ago Sierra's beautiful boy, Travis, who was born without the ability to hear, as you heard from Sierra. And the same company and the same dedicated team of scientists that helped save the president's life also delivered a first-of-its-kind gene therapy known as autonomy. So Travis can now hear his mother, as she told you, tell him that she loves him. Hard to think of a greater gift. And just like you, Mr. President, who made our antibody treatment for COVID free for all Americans and thus saved many lives, we have made the decision, the unprecedented corporate commitment, to provide this first-of-its-kind gene therapy for hearing loss free to all the children in the United States who can benefit from it. And we do this, why? To hopefully highlight the power of disruptive biotech innovation and all the good that it can bring to all of our lives and our health. But we have to remember, despite the miraculous advances like autonomy and like the regenerate COVID treatment, we also have to highlight how far we have yet to go to address the many diseases that lack effective treatments. And the cures will not be coming unless we not only celebrate the advances of the biopharma industry to date, but we all work together, private sector, together with the government, to not only maintain America's position as world leaders in biotech innovation, but to actually bump up innovation and become even more disruptive. Especially in a world where China is increasing investment and heavily subsidizing its biotech industry and reducing regulatory hurdles so as to try to displace America's leading position. President Trump's efforts to make drugs more affordable, as well as new FDA programs, such as the Commissioner's Voucher Program, that bring safe and effective new medicines like autonomy to patients more quickly. These are important steps. One additional important way that I've been talking to the administration about to maintain our leading position in the world is to create catalysts and accelerants for our industry and for the healthcare system, such as developing a national healthcare database linked to molecular data, including human sequence data, where Regeneron once again is a world leader. Without such big data sets, powerful new technologies such as AI, despite its potential, will not be as useful as it could be in the quest to develop new medicines and improve healthcare. The biopharma industry of America has and will continue to deliver miraculous breakthrough. You, Mr. President, and young Travis are living testaments of that. But many more lives need to be helped and saved. We need to attain a new level of disruptive innovation. We have to all work together to meet this challenge. Why? Because lives are at stake.
Let me briefly say something. I'm married to a lawyer, my son is a lawyer, but I'm going to talk about the Constitution, and I'm not an expert. But I know our Constitution lays out a vision on how America would out-innovate, out-produce, out-thrive every other nation on earth. And in it, you will find a description of a system built on incentive and reward. A system that says, take the risk, do the work, and you will share in what you create. That is why they enshrine patent protection directly in the Constitution, not as an afterthought, but as a founding principle. As Abraham Lincoln said, another great president, patents add the fuel of interest to the fire of genius. We must keep that fire burning. What we did here today will do that. Little Travis can now hear for the first time, and his potential is endless. Let's make sure he grows up in a country that never stops reaching for the next miracle. Thank you, Mr.
That's great. Thank you, Lynn. It's great to be with you again. Chris, could you say a few words, please?
Thanks, Mr. President. It's not lost on me that this year is America 250, and it's powerful, I think, to pause and remember that 250 years ago, a revolutionary free republic was born, and with it, the greatest innovation engine in the history of humanity. And we stand here today, 250 years later, getting to witness yet another groundbreaking innovation that doesn't just treat but cures deafness in children. And because of this president and his policies around most favored nation, will enable families who are struggling and suffering with this affliction to have access to that groundbreaking therapy for free. Now, as the president mentioned, we've negotiated the 17th of 17 agreements. This represents 86% of the branded pharmaceutical drug market in the United States. But anyone who knows us knows that we're not done. That's a milestone. It's not the finish line. And so we have three core objectives that are next up. Number one, and this is already underway, we are negotiating with the many hundreds of biotechnology and pharmaceutical companies representing that other 14% that are building the cures for tomorrow. To all those who are listening, I hope that we have proven that we are credible and reliable and trustworthy partners. We want to sit with you. We will listen to you. We will take the time to understand your businesses, not only as we negotiate on behalf of every American family for affordability, but also to ensure that you're best positioned to create the cures for tomorrow. Second, we continue our work on negotiating international trade agreements. 59 days after we stood in this office and President Trump, standing with Albert Bourla from Pfizer, announced the first of the 17 MFN deals, together with our colleagues from the Department of Commerce under Secretary Lutnick's leadership and from the U.S. Trade Representative's office under the leadership of Ambassador Greer, we negotiated a landmark agreement with the government of the United Kingdom in which they agreed to increase significantly the amount that they spend on branded pharmaceuticals for the first time in 26 years. That work continues with other countries. And third, we will continue our work with our partners in Congress to codify the principles that underpin these most favored nation deals so that these savings for American families